So today I'm pleased to join many members of the legislature, the Attorney General, former Chief Justice Rick Ireland, to sign two bills: an act implementing the joint recommendations of the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Review and an act relative to criminal justice reform. Both pieces of legislation are a product of bipartisan collaboration across our administration, the legislature, and the judiciary. The final vote on this was 185-5.
Up until this moment, the specter of Willie Horton and the sensational news media ruled the day when it came to criminal justice policymaking. Independent commissions made up of professionals serving on the front lines repeatedly warned us that a fear-driven approach was producing outcomes that we should rightly be fearful of. Yet year after year, attempts to find common-sense solutions were stymied. This is the story of how practitioners, researchers, and community organizers worked together with leaders on Beacon Hill to change the course of criminal justice policymaking in Massachusetts. The roots of this effort trace back more than a decade to Bruce Western, whose research unpacked the legacy of 2 decades of tough-on-crime legislation and helped spark a national movement to end mass incarceration in the United States. When Wayne Budd, Kevin Burke, and Max Stern came together to form the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Reform Coalition in 2012, they knew trusted research would be central to their effort to bring bipartisan voice to the debate. So they recruited Professor Western as a founding member of their new coalition and established a relationship with MassInc to serve as the coalition's research partner. The first report MassInc prepared for the coalition raised a series of questions. Why was our system failing to provide rehabilitation? Why were we releasing high-risk individuals directly into our communities without adequate support? And how was it possible, with crime trending sharply down, that our prison population was still going up each year? Drawing on the expertise of John Larrabee, Mike Widmer, and many other members of the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, MassInc produced a dozen follow-up studies to get at these questions. Often our research required visits to courthouses and correctional facilities where we saw how the system was struggling up close.
Those people were just held on bail. They weren't getting any treatment. They were detoxed, probably pretty painfully, but that's all they got.
As the debate heated up and more people engaged, we found that often the most insightful answers came at forums and legislative hearings, where those with personal experience rose bravely to tell their stories. These individuals spoke about how untreated mental illness and substance use disorders led to behaviors that ensnared them in the criminal justice system, and how this brush with the law did little to improve their health. We also heard compelling testimony about the toll 2 decades of tough-on-crime policies was taking on minority communities, fracturing families, and tearing at the fabric of their neighborhoods.
Mass incarceration takes more away than just the physical. It takes a lot of energy away from a community.
Mass incarceration has affected my family by taking away many of my family members and having them displaced from their family.
Drawn in by the power of these stories, the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Reform Coalition started to collaborate more directly with the Jobs Not Jails Coalition and other groups advocating for reform, with Lou Finford playing a pivotal role bringing us together. Soon more than 24 groups were meeting monthly at MassInc to informally exchange information, discuss reform proposals, engage collectively with the Council of State Governments, and mobilize for events. By joining forces, we were able to produce a flurry of activity: research forums at the Boston Foundation, briefings at the State House, and a series of community meetings led by Stuck on Replay and other grassroots partners. Legislative leaders like Will Brownsberger, Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, Mary Keefe, Evandro Carvalho, and Byron Rushing spent countless hours participating in these meetings and encouraging all those who saw a need for comprehensive change to speak out. It wasn't just concerned citizens who heeded this call. At the Coalition's 4th annual summit, Chief Justice Gantz and Sheriff Tompkins courageously stepped out of their traditional roles and urged policymakers to act.
I join the Massachusetts Sentencing Commission's conclusion that mandatory minimum sentencing is a failed experiment that must end. The governor has chosen fine judges. Let us do our job in accordance with the best sentencing practices we have established.
Their call to action provided inspiration for the final stretch, leading to more collaboration, grassroots organizing, and ultimately the thoughtful legislating that positions us for the new paradigm Governor Baker describes. But the job is far from complete. As we celebrate what has already been accomplished, we must also ask ourselves, What will it take to deliver on the promise of criminal justice reform?